asked us who would we want to sign from any other Super League clubs, and we did mention Thompson and Walmsley at the time, with the two sort of frontline ones, and he said that he wasn't sure if Walmsley's body could take it because he's so big and he's put so much effort and energy into his collisions, and he'd had that serious injury, hadn't he? The year, I think the year before this conversation happened, and to be honest, it made sense what Radlinski was saying, but I think now the view might be slightly different, because he does seem to have, dealt with the punishment on his body quite well in the last couple of years, being able to play most weeks and play longer minutes and stuff. So whether he'll still be in that sort of shape at 34, we'll see. But certainly in the immediate future, he is an absolute monster and is a good person to re-sign for Saints.
Yeah, well, you'd rather have him on your team than against you, wouldn't you?
For sure. League Centurions have re-signed halfback Ben Reynolds from Championship side Toulouse Olympique after he was released from his contract. The 27-year-old had asked to be released for personal reasons in order to return to the UK, despite signing a 2-year deal before the new season. I think it's his third or fourth spell at least, so we'll see how this one goes.
Yeah. Featherstone Rovers' Brett Ferris has been banned from any involvement in Rugby League for 10 days following a breach of RFL COVID policy. This was because Ferris was identified as having taken part in a behind-closed doors gathering in the bar at Rovers Millennium Stadium on Saturday the 27th of March. Photographs received by the RFL appeared to show players and others from the club socialising indoors. Such gatherings are not currently permitted either under RFL protocols or the law, so the second row forward will not be able to resume training with the club or attend a Featherstone match until Wednesday the 7th of April, provided the club confirms a negative lateral flow test result for him on that day. He's also been fined £250. Meanwhile, the RFL has contacted all clubs and all players to remind them of their obligations and expectations around COVID protocols and behaviours. The RFL is keen to ensure that individuals, their clubs and competitions are not put at unnecessary risk as lockdown restrictions are gradually eased.
I suppose in a potentially related piece of news, we might as well do the two together. Steve Gill has left his role at Featherstone Rovers general manager amidst talk that former Salford and Toronto chief Martin Vickers has joined the club. Gill was appointed at the beginning of January 2019 to working alongside chief executive David Longo, who has also recently departed the club to take up a commercial role at Bradford City Football Club. He previously served as chief executive at Cass and had been at Keighley prior to making the switch to Featherstone. A couple of fan views on this, and I think these two fan views have taken the view that Gill might have been involved in the COVID breach, but I've heard rumours that it's the opposite and he left because of other people orchestrating the COVID breach. But anyway, Carsten said dickhead, and Tom Andrews said some joke about organising a piss up in a brewery. If it's him who's allowed it, then he had to go. So we don't know much about what's happened here other than Featherstone are fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, how idiotic.
Like new rules, are there?
No, but I mean, imagine how many more games would have been called off last year when, you know, infection rates were higher and stuff, if we'd have had idiot clubs like this running around playing games.
I know. It's not just that it's an RFL rule, it is the law. Exactly,
yeah. And Ferris, I suppose, in a way, was unlucky in that he was close to the camera and very recognisable from having a higher profile, being a Super League and England player for lots of years. But I do hope that they're able to identify through the investigation who kind of led to all this and make sure there's some severe punishments handed out at board level to the club. Be it fines and bans from attending matches and that sort of thing, because it's just it's a terrible look for rugby league. It's just not good. It's awful. It's stupid.
Yeah, it is. And And I think that the club need to take responsibility because it was at their place. It wasn't like a group of people got together at somebody's house or anything else. They were at the bar of the ground.
Yeah, well, exactly. Someone at the club, someone's senior at the club has sanctioned it or pushed it to happen or what have you. And, I know there's lots of people who don't like the rules the government have in place, and, none of us enjoy what we're having to be sort of go through at the moment and stuff like that. But at the same time, they're all got to take responsibility for the stupidity of this.
And as a club, you have a responsibility for, whether you agree with it or not, you are responsible for the image you're portraying to, younger people, other people who maybe don't agree with it.
Exactly. And what does this say about a club that wanted to be in Super League? It says you are not fucking professional enough to be in Super League. No matter what you might think of the Super League board or the Super League clubs themselves, you don't belong. Not
if you're going to behave like that, no. I'm afraid.
No.
And somebody else that might fall into this category. Bradford Bulls hooker George Flanagan has been given a 10-match ban after being found guilty of attacking an opponent's testicles. The incident occurred during the Bulls' 41-16 defeat by Featherstone Rovers in the Challenge Cup on Sunday, the 21st of March. Flanagan, who's 34, he denied the charge but was also fined £250 following a disciplinary hearing in Leeds which lasted for more than 3 hours. He was given an 8-match ban for a similar offence in August 2019. And we had a few fans get in touch. So Carson said he should have had the balls to handle it. Joshua's granddad said, given he got 8 matches for the same offence, then 10 is clearly insufficient for this serial nut grabber. The minimum should be 16 or even a season. And Tom Andrews said, surely at this point, the type of tackle has to have a new name. I'll start the bidding with the Bull Buster or the Flanagan Fiddle.
Yeah, a mix of jovial and serious there. I mean, at the time in the game, it looked weird. So it's not a surprise that it was looked into thoroughly. Flanagan denied the charge, which I'm guessing led to why the hearing took so long. I don't know if in those arguments it was why it ended up in discussions. It was why it ended up at a 10-match ban. You have to step it up if he's had a similar charge before. I don't know what what injury, if any, was caused, or what the sort of chance of injury and stuff from these types of tackles is necessarily. But it just so doesn't belong in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think he'd know what not to do, but he obviously thinks he can get away with it. He thinks he's smarter than the match officials, and people like that piss me off.
Yeah, and essentially it was last season that he did the same, wasn't it? Bearing in mind.
Yeah, really. I mean, August 2018, his ban actually did carry over into the 2020 season. I think that was then cut short. So yeah, it's a big impact because he's one of the senior players at Bradford. He's one of the dressing room leaders, and if he thinks he can go around doing things like this, multiple times, what kind of leadership is that? Yeah.
Do you want that as your role model?
Yeah, that. I mean, I enjoyed the jokes from Carson and Tom, but I do take a dim view of what George Flanagan's been up to. Probably, though, one of those will be the episode title. Talk about people who like a bit of a dust-up. Swinton have signed prop Tom Spencer from Lee on a short-term loan deal. The 30-year-old has made more than 100 appearances for Lee, and he also had a spell at London Broncos between 2017 and 2018. He got sent off for fighting in his debut. So there you go.
Not the bar as you mean to go on.
Yeah.
Toulouse have handed a deal to Guy Armitage following a successful trial. Armitage is 29. He joined the club on trial last month, having initially gone to France to play in the suspended Elite 2 Championship season. He started his career in rugby union, playing for Wasps, London Irish, London Welsh and Toulon, before switching codes to join London Broncos.
Widnes have signed young prop Aribi Doro from Warrington on a 2-week loan deal. He got sin-binned for fighting as well in his first game. The 20-year-old made his Super League debut against Castleford last season after coming through the academy at the Wolves.
Yep, and Widnes captain Jack Owens has signed a new 3-year deal, keeping him at his hometown club until the end of 2024. The 26-year-old fullback made his first team debut at the age of 16, and he's gone on to score 56 tries and kick 268 goals in 105 games for the club.
They tried.
Did you see the April Fool about it?
Yeah, they tried an April Fool's, didn't they, on this one?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain that for anyone who didn't catch it?
They put a video on, didn't they, entitled something like "Thanks for the Memories, Jack." And it was only when you watched right to the very end of the video that it wasn't a highlights because he's leaving compilation. It was he signed a new deal.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was meant to be funny or not, but I think it got a few, which in the end becomes funny for everyone else. So
yeah.
So yeah.
Did you see any other decent rugby tweets? April Fool tweets?
I didn't go looking for him, Sarah. I've got to be honest.
I didn't go looking. One nearly caught me out, and I did manage to catch Joshua with it. Somebody tweeting that the RFL have screwed it up again. How, despite the fact it's a pandemic, they really need to sort the paperwork out, and who authorised Josh Reynolds to play in the first round if his paperwork wasn't completed. And we were getting a 6-point docking. So that took me a moment to click that it was April Fool's, and then got a very good reaction out of Joshua when I shared it with him.
Oh, I can only imagine. All the previous injustices will have been brought up, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's it. We're not going to win the league now.
I'm sure it was Stefan Ratchford's fault some way as well.
I imagine it would have been, yeah.
Okay, Bradford prop Anthony England has retired from the game due to injury. The 34-year-old former Warrington and Wakefield forward made over 250 appearances in a 16-year professional career that began at Castleford in 2005. He went on to play for Dewsbury, Gateshead and Featherstone before making the breakthrough into Super League, initially with Warrington and then with Wakefield. England joined Bradford on a 12-month contract ahead of the 2020 season, and the Bulls made the announcement that he has now decided to hang up his boots.
Yeah, Keith Lee Cougars.
There's one other line here from the Championship before we get into League One.
Sorry.
Wigan Warriors. You didn't know, Sarah? It was a new one that I added in late on in the scheme of things. Wigan Warriors youngster Aidan Roden has joined Betfred Championship side Whitehaven on an initial month-long loan deal.
Excellent.
He didn't get sin-binned for fighting at the weekend, so there's some hope for people getting loaned to the Championship.
Yeah, so moving on, Keith Lee for Jack Arnold has signed a new deal, keeping him at the club until the end of the 2022 campaign.
I'm sure we're going to start to see things ramp up League One news-wise over the next few weeks as the season gets ready to start.
Yeah.
The International Rugby League Board are planning to stage the 2025 World Cup in France. Strengthening the game in France has been targeted as a strategic priority. Who knew that governing bodies in our sport could have strategic priorities? By the IRL's new chairman, Troy Grant. And he says work has already begun to persuade the French government to back the idea of the country hosting the world event. It will be the first time France has hosted the tournament outright, which they kicked off in 1954, of course hosting the first tournament, since the 1972 competition, which was won by Great Britain. And Grant is hoping that a decision can be made before this year's World Cup starts. The former Australian politician has been unveiled as the new chairman, replacing Greg Barclay, who will remain on the board as an independent director despite standing down in response to his recent appointment as the chairman of the International Cricket Council. Grant has had conversations with the likes of former England coach Wayne Bennett and South Sydney Rabbitohs chief exec Blake Solly when he agreed to take on the job, and they each told him that revitalising